Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by my Myron.
Good morning, evening, folks. Thank you for listening to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I want to give a big shout out to all of my daughter's friends who now listen to the show, uh, thinking we are broadcasting icons. Uh, also, I believe we have a mailbag episode today, don't we, Nick?
Yeah, man. Look, the mailbag episodes have done really well. So make sure, by the way, you're sending all of your emails, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Send in your questions. I'm almost contemplating now getting to the point to where we'll continue to do these episodes until, if we have a big, like a prediction show, like next week, we're talking about, hey, do we just do a prediction show for Mania, what we think is going to happen? Potentially, we had that other thing. We may do that, the Ultimate Card show. Maybe, because the prediction show, who knows? We'll maybe do both. But unless there's just something major that happens that's like, hey, we know we're going to talk about this for 20, 30 minutes or something like that. I really enjoy these. So make sure you keep sending in those questions to tappedoutpod@gmail.com. And while you're giving shout outs, Myron, look, a couple people, Jacob Mercer and Gerardo. I'm going to probably butcher the name, and I apologize in advance. Gerardo Aguilar Estrella, and so I look. They always are sending in stuff. They're always commenting on social media and stuff like that. Just wanted to give them a big shout out. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the support.
Hello, fellows, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, man. And look, if you're looking for ways to support us, of course, look, there is the Patreon, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Of course, there is the YouTube as well. Well, we always tell you what, Myron. How do they get it? What do they do here? We always tell them one.
Like and subscribe. And if you want to join over there at the special YouTube, that's where you go. Tell them all about it, Nick.
That's right, man. Like the page, subscribe to the page, turn your notifications on. Hell, become a member right there. Get the stuff where you get the show early. You'll get it pretty much always the day before it releases. So typically we record on Wednesday, and I immediately try to get it up there for you. Works that way on the Patreon as well. But there's also lists and stuff that I'm putting there. Look, I fully credit Phil Stamper, who puts out an indie show list, and I copy and paste it and put it on our Patreon and our YouTube channel to try to help get that word out. But I do credit him completely for that list he compiles. It's a great thing that he does. Look, we also got our buddy Rob Rod. He does a list that he puts out there for Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, all that kind of stuff.
Give him enough credit. That man does work, just thankless work, directing people to indie shows around the Southeast. The other day, I was like, who's running in Georgia on Saturday? And a list just came to me from the mighty Rob Rod. He has missed more at shows than anyone I have ever seen. He came back to the show the other day, and people lined up to hug his ugly ass.
Look, I think he might be cute. Now, don't be, some people could say he's cute, especially when he shaves and he cleans up. He cleans up pretty. How about that? So anyway, let's dive in before we go down a rabbit hole. Let's start talking about the questions for the week, Myron, because it was a wild and crazy week.
I can't believe you mentioned rabbit holes and Rob Rod in the same sentence. But this might be the episode that gives us a mature rating, Nick, because I have read these questions in preparation to asking you.
Yep.
And there are some tough ones in here. This is going to be Ryan from Lakewood, Washington. Has a good question. After Raw, this week, is PG effectively dead? Because didn't someone say PG? PG, man?
Yeah, Drew dropped that line on there during that promo. Look, because everybody wants to run straight to the Rock segments being the ones, and I'm like, dude, the Punk comments in that promo, they push the envelope as much as anybody. The not so subtle Vince comment when Drew says, I'm the chosen one, and like, what paragon of virtue named you that? Say his name, I was like, woo. Here's my thing. Like, look, I mean, you would have to assume that here's how does that work? You would have to assume Triple H is okay with that comment. But then how does he, you know what I mean? Like, how is that like the next time you see Vince, that you let that. Now Vince probably doesn't give a shit. That's the problem. Vince understands, like, hey, it's business, pal, or whatever.
He would have to see him at the next hot Easter dinner, because he's not going to see him in a board meeting. He's not going to see him at a shareholders meeting, because he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
That's the only time he would see Vince. And Vince will be like, what's happening, pal? How's business? Because Vince isn't involved anymore. I thought it was a brilliant promo. He made Drew, who to me is the most boring person on the roster who isn't wearing a loincloth.
You totally missed the boat on Drew. I think Drew is so, like, right now is in the zone. I think he's crushing it right now.
Punk is so good. And the comment, I don't listen to your podcast, Pat. I listen to the Experience in the Drive-Thru. Just pop me. I loved every promo on the show. Becky and Rhea was killer. Attacking Dom was killer. Such a great promo show. And then I'll learn you something about hard times, boy. Oh, Nick. Yes, PG is over as we segue into Netflix. How much longer do we have till Netflix time?
Well, Punk, it's January. Punk actually drops the Netflix name, and when he's talking about his arm may not work, but his mouth still does, and he's like, "Oh, we are not on Netflix yet," and then he references his wife, like, you know what I mean, and I'm like, all right, so there's another one, and here's the thing, like, yeah, Rock drops an F-bomb. And they're like, oh, but it was bleeped out. He's looking right into the camera. It is obvious what he said. Like, it's not even like, yeah, so they beeped it. Whoop-de-doo. You knew what was said. The blood, they did a really good job with the blood. And somebody was like, I thought you guys were, like, I'm not as a big blood guy. And I know you're not either.
Nope.
But here's the thing. Do you know why it was so effective?
It was
because they don't do it. No, they don't do it all the time.
Exactly. They don't waste it. That's why when they do it, when it's appropriate, it has that massive impact. Okay. Yeah. If you're not bleeding all over the place every night, when somebody gets color, it has this massive impact and everyone's talking about it. Now you have cemented this feud as serious. You said fuck. You talked about his mama. You got that wrestling belt out after he was busted open in the rain next to his bus. That's a serious feud. That's when blood mattered. That's what I like. I like to see things like literature, like fine art. That color was done appropriately. Not just some jabroni bleeding all over a mat on a regular weekly show. It's mania.
With the blood, the language, the edgy, even like when I say edgy, the stuff that Punk's talking about and all that kind of stuff, is like, first of all, by the way, I do agree that something was said on 83 Weeks this week. Please, for the love of God, stop calling this like, hey, we're back to the Attitude Era. It's not the Attitude Era. You know what I mean?
I just want a cigarette now. Sorry. I enjoyed that way too much.
So it's like PG, it's the Attitude. It's not Attitude. We got to come up. Are we going to call it, look, effectively January 1, does the Netflix era begin? Is that what we're going to call it?
This is pre-Netflix. This is the Netflix build. It's going to be, we're going to get through this Mania and everything between Mania and Netflix. Could we call it the bad Attitude Era? What are we going to, I mean, it's going to be a ride between now and Netflix. I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to cancel Raw on USA between now and Netflix?
No.
They've already got their deal.
They're going to take them off the air. Before we segue to the next question, Nick from Buford wants to know, was this the best Raw in years? Look, it wasn't the best Raw ever. We're not even going to make that case because I don't even think that's a good argument. But the things that they did on this, like, we always talk about the thread throughout the show. Like, what did Rock say? You know what I'm saying? What did Rock whisper to Cody that shook him up? And clearly, and it's funny because now it's a meme online, and clearly every expert lip reader on the planet was like, I'm going to make you bleed tonight. That's basically what he said. But then he left. And then he said, then they had the segment where he's walking through the back, and she asked him, what did he say? And it's Ask Cody. And then, so all these pieces throughout the night were kind of the cool things. The oddest thing of it all, there was a scene, and I'm drawing a total blank, and I had it in my head. Did you see Drew and Paul Heyman talking in the background of one of the? It's like, what was that all about?
Did you see Charlotte's husband and Dominic Mysterio talking in the background? Did you see all this stuff building in the background? Did you see a wonderful Ricochet and JD Drew match? Did you see
JD McDonough?
JD McDonough, shit. Who the hell is JD Drew?
He was a baseball player.
Okay. Those pieces don't always work with Myron.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, there was everything. There was intrigue, violence, wonderful matches. Where is this coming from, Nick? What great brain is this coming from?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people are quick and easy to drop it. It's got to be Triple H. Let's not forget Brian Gewirtz is sitting at that table. Bruce Pritchard is clearly involved in that table. And so I think
now, before you
on.
go off on Bruce Pritchard, go ahead.
I'm not. No, Eric doesn't credit it to a person particular, more and like I said, and more so as an absence of a person. And it's not that it's anything against the creative of Vince McMahon. He says that he believes it's the structure in which they were forced to create in. They now have more. They have a plan. They're not afraid of making a plan because it's not probably going to be ripped up on Monday when you walk in there.
Yeah.
Depending on the mood. So they can creatively, they feel a little more freedom, and they can actually kind of build long term, and they have more confidence in their long term. So, but I will say, like you brought up the Ricochet thing, that's a Triple H thing about, if nothing else, like you do have to tip your cap to Vince Russo back in the Attitude Era that, he tried to make every little story matter. Every person had something to work with a little bit. And that's kind of what I feel like. Look, Ricochet's not the top guy. But if you haven't noticed, in the last few weeks, he's had this little thing with, the Judgment Day where it's McDonough, Dom, McDonough. Like the pieces are there to where it's like, hey, it may not be it's not the A story, it's not the B story, it's not even the C story, but it's a story that they're kind of working there in the background.
Well, look at the Latino groups. They're having their own story.
Yeah.
You've got all these other groups that are getting their own story that they may not have every week, but they're in there. I love the Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, Gunther storyline. That's great. But what do you think about what Rhonda Ryback said about Bruce Pritchard just being a puppet of Vince McMahon, working through text messages?
Look, maybe she's selling books. Maybe she's telling the truth, and I don't really. Look, she clearly has I don't know that she's planning on coming back, but this ain't a great way if she ever wants to. She may not ever want to, but she seemed to heap a little bit of praise on Triple H, so maybe that's just, look, it could boil down to simply like just selling books. It could be that simple.
Makes sense. Well, let's go on to what our next question is. Our good friend and fan, Ryan from Lakewood, Washington. Sounds like a lovely place. He was the guy that asked the last question.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to go to the second question, not the first question.
Sean from Haywood, California. Please forgive me, people, for being a horrible host. Did the beatdown change my mind on Mania's outcome? Oh, that's a good question, Nick. Did it change your mind to see Cody getting beat down like that?
Yes.
Is he going to lose?
1,000%. Now, I don't. So here's the thing. When it said it changed my mind, it wasn't so much that it changed. We'll come to that part later. Hold on. This is two parts. What it changed. I don't think Rock's turning babyface. I think that's too much heat to flip in 2 weeks, in my opinion. So I think. Look, Bully's been pushing this, for a little while now, and now it's crazy as it sounds. I was all about, it's a conspiracy theory. blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to twist something that I don't even have on the notes that I'm going to surprise you with.
Oh,
Do I think Cody loses? I think we're in a great position right now that none of us really know. We're all speculating at this point. Look, if you'd asked me when he won the Rumble, Cody's winning. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. I was convinced. Even when Rock did the switch over, Cody's winning. Now I'm like, I don't know, man. But guess what? If he does win, they've done a great job of making us swing the other way to not be sure.
yes. But I'm going to go with nothing's changing except the fact that Rock isn't going to turn face unless this is the most massive work ever. But the thing is, Cody's going to win. This isn't going to be a continuation. Cody is going to win. This is a Dusty Rhodes type situation where they make it look like the babyface is so down and he's beaten down. And now you got to sympathize with a man who's got his own van, his bus. Now you got to sympathize with a man who's got a beautiful wife and a fancy dog. You got to sympathize with this man because he's become a common man, taking a beating down in a parking lot. And he's the underdog now. The bloodline is kicking his ass. And he's got a partner in high heels that he can't trust. And you just don't know what's going to happen. And he's going to triumph through all this adversity like his father. That's the way I see it happening.
And it very well could be. You could also go the route that Cody loses, but there's something happens. You end up with Rock's going to go away for a while, make a movie, but could you end up with Cody versus Rock at SummerSlam? Then, you keep building it. Survivor Series, it's Team Cody versus Team, Bloodline for Cody to get a shot at the title. Because remember, this is it. If he loses, he's not supposed to be able to get any more shots. But now the question becomes is who faces Roman in that gap, right? That's the hardest gap. I think ultimately, are they really trying to chase down this Hogan number? Because if that's what they're going to do, then I think yes, they obviously Roman has to win. But you brought up like Dusty. Dusty came up short in Madison Square Garden. That's where he thought he won, but he didn't win. They took the belt from him. Blah blah blah. At the end of the year, beginning of the year, I can't remember the exact date. They always run, after Christmas, they always run Madison Square Garden. Let's say you run it after January 1 and it's on Netflix. Be a hell of a way to promote one of the first Raws on Netflix is if you can run it in the Garden and have Cody wrestling for that championship at the Garden in the building that his dad was denied. Be a heck of a little story to run with it if you want to.
Why you got to make me so damn confused? Why you got to give me this whole story? I was about to have a nice sip of my coffee, and you come back with this conspiracy theory involving Dusty Rhodes' legacy, and then Netflix on the first of the year, and I'm puzzled. I might have to go with this, Nick.
The flaw a lot of people see with the system is what about Roman and how does he, how do we spin out of that if he wins? And here's the thing: there's already a general consensus out there that The Rock, Bully, Mark Henry's the one who said it. The Rock has essentially made Cody, Seth, and Roman the side chicks of the story. He's bigger than all of them combined. And so they all feel second fiddle to The Rock. Can Roman, even like imagine if Roman wins and he's still the champion. He's running down the Hogan number. But they're like, yeah, but how do you get to him versus Rock then if he doesn't turn on him? What if Roman has just had enough? I'm the tribal chief. He never had a title run close to this long. And we're talking about him over me. There's your friction that without even him having to turn on him. Eventually Roman basically, causes the rift because he's had enough. And down the road, you turn. Roman turns Rock versus Rock just simply flipping. It's a lot of. I'd love to have tappedoutpod@gmail.com. How would you get there? What's the 3?
3 more shows, Nick, before Mania. We have 3 more shows.
2 SmackDowns and a Raw, right? Yeah.
Those 3 shows, 2 more shows before we record again. I think we're going to learn a lot in the 2 shows before we record again. And by the time that 3rd show comes around, we'll know a lot more. They're going to continue this slow burn setup, Nick. They're going to be preparing us.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I don't like holidays. My birthday, I'm 51. Our birthdays don't. And we're also fathers and husbands. Our birthdays don't mean shit anymore. Christmas doesn't mean shit once you have kids. But WrestleMania, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah.
And our friend Carlos, he's going to ask us he's from Cedar Park, Texas, and he's going to ask us, are the Raw ratings proof that 3 hours is just too much TV? Now, you broke these down to me earlier. You were researching Raw ratings, and can you tell me what the Raw ratings were, Nick?
Well, let's preface this, Carlos. I appreciate your question, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. I didn't need ratings to prove to me that 3 hours of Raw is too much. I can tell you that from sitting there and watching it, that it's too much. But I think specifically what he's addressing is Raw's numbers this week, 1.729 million. By the way, it peaked at 2.2 for the Rollins, the Punk, and the Drew McIntyre segment, which was the crossover hour, which totally makes sense. But here's the thing. The people are going to argue that the Rock beatdown of Cody out by the bus, by the way, and I'm going to address something about that, was 1.67 million. So obviously it tapered off a little bit in the 3rd hour. And by the way, you brought it up, one of the hottest Raws that we've had in years. The thread was there. By the way, it wasn't the drop off, like from hour 1 to 3 as a whole. Like it wasn't the worst drop off ever. So that it did hold better than normal. But yeah, I mean, if you can't hold the same, but I think 2 hours is hard to hold for this, for the whole run.
It's a school night one. It's on until 11 o'clock. There's a substantial portion of your audience whose parents are going to say you have to go to bed. As there's a substantial portion of your audience who's never seen a Raw main event.
Not live, right? Yeah.
Except during the holidays.
They've seen it on Hulu the next day or something.
Okay, yes. SmackDown gets higher ratings because it's on a Friday night. And your audience is not going to be going out on Friday nights. We are rare because we are out most Friday nights. We're at a wrestling show. But, or out with our wives doing something. But wrestling, the audience that sits and watches television, there's a lot of young kids at home that are put to bed before the main event comes on. Or put to bed. We've seen what happens when things get salty at a wrestling show. Especially late in the show, the parents take the kids home. I guess I'm going to call that main event syndrome from now on. When things get a little salty, the parents pick their kids up and go home. Or it's bedtime and the parents have to take their kids home.
Yeah. Before we move on, I do want to ask you again, Nick from Buford wants to know. I want to specific, because I know we're moving away from WWE stuff here in a second. I wanted to ask you, there's also another conspiracy theory floating out there that when Rock was putting that ass whooping on Cody out by the bus, by the way, tip your cap to the product placement of that vodka company.
When they opened the doors, there was Wheatley vodka.
I was like, do you think that was coincidence? I think not.
Do that, Tony Khan.
But you see, it was placement. The placement, right, was perfect. But when he's putting that ass whooping and they turned, I want to ask you, Myron, there was an 18-wheeler trailer there. That's a new wrap. That's not an old one. That's not an old truck.
You talking about the one with Charlotte Flair on it?
No, we're talking about the one. You didn't see it? It was fucking a giant John Cena and a Steve Austin on a trailer. And everybody's like, can somebody explain to me why on your trailer, because it's usually always new, it's current talent typically on. They fucking change those things when guys leave and whatever. They put, they kind of keep them up to date. Why was John Cena and Steve Austin specifically in this shot? Because when they turned that camera, they made sure the placement was perfect. And here's the other thing. Bischoff pointed this out, and I would have never noticed this. It was professionally lit to be seen. He's like, so that thing was lit up. They had a
camera rig out there.
They had something out there. It was lit to be seen. It wasn't like the camera, like some guy was filming and it was dark because it was, in the background. He's like, no, this shit was lit up like professional. Like it was lit up for a purpose for it to be seen.
This is why I love WWE. Sorry. It's a childhood thing. I've grown up watching and getting caught up in memories that I figured out later were just shot to get me. And as an adult, I'm just so happy they put that much effort into getting me.
Well,
I don't even know. I don't know what to tell you, Nick.
No, there's a theory out there that, look, it's already been said that they haven't said anything. But the general consensus is John Cena is going to do something at WrestleMania. He's going to be at WrestleMania. Then it's like, okay, well, what if Stone Cold Steve Austin shows up at WrestleMania? What if they end up aligning? Because Austin and Cena, think of the powers that be, Triple H currently, John Cena and Steve Austin are The Rock's greatest rivals, in my opinion. That's debatable, I'm sure. But think about it. Him and Austin is literally the rivalry. They main evented 3 Manias, 15, 17, 19. Triple H and him kind of were coming up together, and they kind of had their rise to the, at the same time. And then his last, to me, big feud was the one with John Cena, where they announced a year in advance they were doing a Mania match, right? They main evented a Mania and then announced they were going to do another one. So if you're going to go back and callbacks to that era for nostalgia, who better to align with Cody than Austin and Cena?
God, I hate when he surprises me with this shit. The only other 2 people I could think that would be effective Rock rivals would be Hogan and Foley. And Foley can't walk, and Hogan's persona non grata.
But Hogan was a one-off, but
that was the 18 was the greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
You can make that case. I meant, but far as rivalries, long-term story rivalries, those are your guys. And Foley, for the bulk of it, the best part of their story was as a team. So that's why I think those are your. If you were trying to go nostalgia and you're trying to, have somebody like a callback, that's why I think you're 3. But Triple H
standing with Cody. Imagine standing with Cody would be Cena and Jesus Christ,
and on Austin, yeah. So I mean, it's out there. If you were putting a team together, and there are better teams that But yeah, anyway, I thought that was pretty too. But it's kind of, look, we're this close. And they could be still holding that much ammo, which I don't know that they are. But you know what that would be?
WWE, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Nick. Spectacle. It's the thing you tune in for. Yeah. I don't know. That looks just scary, Nick.
That is very scary. And speaking of scary, Myron, they got to check us out. If you're a big fan of the paranormal, the UFOs, the ghosts, the goblins, the goose, all of that stuff, check out our buddy William over at William Scary Things on YouTube. Are you a fan of the strange, mysterious, and unusual? Do you enjoy stories told firsthand about creepy experiences, UFO encounters, ghostly apparitions, near-death and afterlife experiences, even parallel universes? Well, if so, you need to check out the YouTube channel William Scary Things. It is a new, albeit determined channel. William was influenced as a kid by books, movies, stories, all that were passed down by his friends and family, and they all had a creepy theme. What started out as a scary story narration is now a long-form interview process with people who have experienced weird and unusual things firsthand. Do you want to hear about a house with the former owners that were laid to rest right in the front yard? Yeah, told by yours truly. Well, if so, William Scary Things has you covered. How about a witness to the Phoenix Lights, probably the most renowned UFO sighting in modern history? Maybe you want to hear about a first-hand encounter with a ghostly apparition late one night with a photo to boot. No problem. William's got you covered there too. Were you a fan of the Scary Stories to Tell and Dark Book series as a kid? Want to learn more about the Solway Firth spaceman? Well, if so, it's all right there. So head on over to William Scary Things and check out his latest episodes and give him a like, subscribe to the channel, heck, leave a comment. Trust me, there's nothing to be scared of. That's right, man. Make sure you're checking out William Scary Things right over there on YouTube. Like we always tell you on ours, like the page, subscribe, turn your notifications on, all that cool stuff. It's got some cool stories, man, and they'll spook you out a little bit.
No, that's scary. That's very scary. I get all, every time I try to listen to it, I get all scared and have to call my wife to hold my hand. It's too much for me.
Yeah.
Whew.
Speaking of too much, right?
Oh, this was too much. Well, no, it might actually have worked. Mike from Coral Gables, Florida. I wish I was in Coral Gables, Florida, because it's wet and cold up here, and they can't finish my house, all the work they need to do on my house because of the wet and cold. But Mike from Coral Gables, Florida is asking, was the addition of Rampage to Dynamite a test for adding another hour and making it a 3-hour show? What did you think, Nick?
Yes. Okay, I'll start with I think it was. The answer to that is yes to the question. I think there's more depth to the answer than that. Appreciate the question, Mike. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. The question is, I guess, essentially like, do we test the waters out to see, do we get a better return on our investment? Because look, we talked about like hour 3 last week. Remember, we're recording on Wednesday prior to this week's Dynamite, so we're discussing last week's. The third hour, which was Rampage, not Dynamite, but it was consecutive, averaged 541,000, and everybody's like, oh man, they were their ratings were 800, blah blah blah, whatever. Yes, however, I'm looking at Q1 of 2024. The average for Rampage on a Friday is 374. So 170, roughly 1,000 more people watched. It's like a 50% increase or some crazy number. So if they feel like, because here's the other thing, by the way, they're already filming it. Yeah. Think about it. They were filming Dynamite when we went, and it aired on Friday, so it's like they're already there. Yeah. There's no cost increase. They're just going to,
because they film Rampage at the end of Collision anyway, right?
They filmed they filmed Rampage after we were there at Dynamite. They recorded Dynamite. We were there live for Dynamite, and they recorded Rampage right behind it. And then Collision they recorded the next night, because Collision's 2 hours and they aired it the next. Yeah. Because typically Collision's live on Saturday, Myron, so they recorded it that week we were there, so they have to record Rampage after Dynamite that they air live on Wednesday, because it airs Friday, 2 days later. Do you have your shows wrong? Saturday's Collision, Wednesday's Dynamite, Rampage is Friday, so they have to record Rampage after Dynamite on Wednesday because it airs on Friday, and typically Saturday is live.
I was thinking, I was confused. So I thought they recorded Rampage after Collision that night, but
no, we were at Dynamite. We went to Dynamite. We did not go to Collision. They recorded
I know that.
Rampage. Rampage, they recorded it after, because we left before Rampage started.
Oh, that's right. They were resetting for Rampage and we left.
Yeah.
You are correct. So if they do that, they're already there.
That's what I meant.
Broadcast it. Why
Move,
not?
Like, say, we're just going to we'll take away Rampage, move Dynamite, make it 3 hours, and we're already there. We'll just keep the live feed going. And
you don't have to move your camera crew. You don't have to reset all that equipment. You don't have to do all that stuff. You don't have to rent a building anymore. Yeah. You're already doing it.
I mean, it's a better night.
Increase.
It's a better night than Friday.
They bled the Edge and Christian storyline over.
Yeah.
Smart. Your ratings were better because when you separate it, it's Friday night. It's like after SmackDown, so you're giving the other company the lead in.
Well, and you start at 10 o'clock anyway. It's on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Your key demo, hopefully, is going out Friday night.
Right.
So that's kind of the way they are. I mean, that's why they only do on like a 374,000 average for this. Look, that average is for the quarter. So
here's the thing. If we were to, there's got to be a formula to compare this to the Raw drop down for the third hour. If we were to look at it from the drop for being the hour on Friday, and we compare it to the drop down from Raw.
Can Nick give you the absolute roughest math of all? I'll give you the roughest math of all.
Raw
the peak Raw was 2.2.
Yeah.
They averaged 1,729 or whatever. So if Dynamite was at 800,000, they probably peaked somewhere around 900,000. 50% drop, right? If they went to if Raw goes from 2.2 and the last hour they did 1.67 for the Rock beatdown, segment or whatever. Let's call it a 25-30% drop. Well, if you had 900,000, you drop 25-30%, it's about 300,000, you're around 600. They were at 574. Nick's math is close enough. It's about equal.
So that makes
it's as rough as it gets, and I get it. Don't come at me with the math. I understand it's rough as it gets, but it's not like it was horrendous in relation to Raw's drop.
So your TV's already on,
yeah,
and you're watching the Edge and Christian match, and you've been promised a good match to finish, and they've told you who's going to finish, and they've built Sasha Banks right, and they've told you about her and Willow, and they've told you about Willow being in the match. And they've told you that Sasha Banks is there. And they've told you all about Sasha. Did they listen to somebody between Sasha and Sasha? Between the two episodes of Dynamite and fix the stuff? Sounded like they did. It sounded like they listened to our podcast and fixed it.
I don't know, man. They didn't do any better. I mean, there was like 2,000 people more average.
I think they did dramatically better with Sasha or Mercedes. They introduced her. They told you who she was, what she did. They put 7 times women's world champion under her name. They told you that Willow hurt her. They told her why she was against Willow. They made sense. And then they came back around and did it and let her know, Willow's got the main event. There's a reason that she might be there. Now, if you compare that to the Jade Cargill build they had on SmackDown, it wasn't as good, but they're trying. Okay?
Look, but back to the question. I mean, I just think the question prior from Carlos from Cedar Park, Texas, yes, 3 hours too long.
Yes.
However, in AEW scenario, would they be better served to just air that third hour? Do they get a better ROI? You're already keeping the fans there and recording it anyway.
It's got to be easier to sell the commercial on it. For a third hour that's going to draw better ratings on Wednesday night than a third hour that's going to get less ratings on Friday night.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I'd love to know. Would you rather see a third hour on Dynamite or leave Rampage where it is? tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Let us know.
Or should you go?
Correct.
Thomas from Greenwood, Indiana. Thomas wants to know, what did you guys think of Adam Copeland versus Christian, the I Quit match?
So you referenced it. That was the crossover, how they went from hour 2 to 3.
Smart choice.
Very smart choice. I did like the way they went black for a second. I'm sure that was a TV thing to separate the two shows, type of scenario, whatever. Remember, Raw used to do like the little, they would put up the logo in the corner that it was like Raw was going off, and then Warzone would come on. They would put up that's how they were transitioning from show to show. Maybe their go to black was a segue. Look, I tend to agree with the thought. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Adam Copeland should have stayed in WWE, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, man. I don't really know what else he could have done there, especially if he was only going to be used as a part-timer. Like, I don't really know where he fit. Like, think about this. Here's the challenge. In your brain right now, close your eyes and imagine Adam Copeland was still Edge in WWE. Where would he fit into the picture right now?
Well, his rivalries were sort of manufactured. Am I incorrect? They were making him to have rivalries to put other people over. He wasn't Edge.
That tends to happen in wrestling in general, but.
Yes, but he wasn't the Edge he used to be. He was old man Edge helping other people. He wasn't living out what was left of his wrestling dream. He wasn't getting that match with Christian or doing these things he wanted to do. And as you are so fond of saying, cash or creative. Mm-hmm. And it looks like he got his creative.
I'm sure he got the cash too, but
yeah.
Look, I think like Christian being there, like wanting to go, like, he made the comment, like, his daughter was like, hey, go play with Uncle Jay. And it's like, all right, there's a lot to be said that he's going and having fun with your friends. I mean, so he just wanted to go work with, his buddies. Look, and this, by the way, this might be interpreted as a shot at Tony Khan, but it's not. He lets a lot of guys live out their dreams and like do the things they want to do, like what would make them happy, kind of. And look, he did a great job with Stings, and anybody who says otherwise, I would push back tremendously and go, I think he did a really good job with what he did with Sting. Would I had Sting lose? Probably, but whatever. I mean, that's subjective as it comes. But so letting him go, look, I thought it was cool, the match itself. That was specifically what the question was about, was the match. It was an I Quit match. It was brutal. There was the blood, there were tables, there were handcuffs, there were all this stuff. There was a hockey fight. I mean, they put jerseys on and they fought, whatever. It was in their hometown. It was what they wanted to do. So kudos. Now, that's all I can say. Like, if they were happy with it, man, kudos to them, because I didn't hate it.
I mean, we diss on Tony for giving people what they want, for giving talent what they want, but sometimes it's enjoyable. So whatever. But I know what I enjoy, and we didn't know where we were going to be Saturday night, but we sure as hell knew where we were going to be Friday night. And where is that, Nick?
Man, it is Friday. It's usually the first Friday of the month, but this, because of Mania and everything, thing got shifted around. So on March 29th, this Friday, we'll be heading up to Canton for our friends at Southern Honor.
Attention wrestling fans, join us Friday, March 29th for SHW 61. Live from the Action Building in Canton, Georgia. Just who are the rightful owners of the SHW Tag Team title belts? Find out once and for all when the Grapplers face Exotic Youth to officially crown the true champions. After winning the Pick Your Poison Challenge, Hollywood Hunter James has chosen the stipulation in his Jake the Snake Legacy Championship match against Chip Day. If Chip gets disqualified or uses the Brainbuster, he loses the title. It's been months of anticipation, and now the People's Captain, Gunnar Miller, will finally go one-on-one with the endgame CT Keys. And in our main event, Joe Black gets his shot at redemption as he challenges the Southern Honor champion Judas to a dog collar match with the title on the line. Also in action, Kyle Matthews, Alexander Lev, The Warden, Sal Renaro, AEW star QT Marshall, and more. Tickets start at just $15 and go on sale at the door the night of the show beginning at 5 p.m. Doors open at 7, bell time at 8. As always, kids 10 and under are free. Invite all your friends for another incredible night of non-stop action. Come see why we are SHW, and this is our wrestling.
That's right, man. We'll be up there in Canton this Friday. Southern Honor 61. Going to be a lot of stuff 61. Going on. Yeah, it's been wild and crazy, man. It's crazy to think about. But look, make sure like we'll plug it here. This week obviously is the Tapped In. We're doing their indie show this week. We're going to talk a little bit about the Southern Honor Show and some other stuff that we got going on that happened, going to happen, and all that good stuff as well. But the hits keep coming, Myron. What do we got?
Yep. This is a good one, and this is one that might bring up a little bit of AEW negativity. This is Steven from Hampton, Virginia. Was it too soon for Okada to win a title?
Creative subjective, right? That's the kind of the story. I thought so, but look, send your hate mail, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Because here's the thing. Eddie Kingston's your guy. Like I felt like they were kind of building, and I know, look, we disagree. Actually, I don't think we disagree on our take of Eddie Kingston. I think we just disagree on the sense of like, I get that fan base loves him. I'm not a massive fan of Eddie Kingston. And I don't look, it's not a knock on Eddie Kingston. He's just not my kind of, like, I don't know, whatever. I can't even explain it. I'm not a bit Eddie Kingston guy, but that doesn't mean he sucks. He's terrible, blah, blah, blah. It just means it's not for me. But for Okada basically to come in and essentially, like, think about it. He did a run in, he did a 6-man match, and then he won a title. But then again, I guess if you're going to build him up like he's the greatest wrestler on the planet, maybe but you're making that case for Ospreay too. So why didn't he win one yet? I don't know. Did
I don't
Okada
normally
need one?
quote Bischoff. I don't normally quote Bischoff, but Ospreay is the hot thing. Ospreay is the real deal. Ospreay should get the real business. Okada, nobody knows who he is, and I don't think he has any potential as far as being an American style wrestler. At best, he's a Shinsuke Nakamura. But then I don't understand the fan base, so I might miss everything. But if you look at anything from a wrestling point of view, I'm not saying I'm a booker. I'm just saying I've watched wrestling before I've been watching wrestling, God almighty, since I was a small child. And if you could ever believe I was small at any time, but I was a small child. And nobody gets a title put in on them in their their second match in a promotion.
I don't know, man. I look, here's the take. If you're trying to make a splash with him, you couldn't put the big titles on him, right? You couldn't put the big belt on him because Joe's got it.
Put the 6-man on him.
Listen, here's the thing. As much as I used to love the NWA, the trophy, the championship 6-man belts are trash right now. I don't think they have any stock in them. So winning those may hurt you more than they help you. But it's a terrible opinion. Hate mail at tappedoutpod@gmail.com.
Georgia has a good one. One. National, not so much.
Yeah. I mean, in general, like there's just not. 6-man belts. 6-man belts dilute your tag team division. We'll go with that, and we'll leave it at that. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Give me if you got 6-man, then you actually have a tag team that has 3 people in it, and you can go Freebird style and all that kind of stuff. But whatever.
Freebirds.
So, it's a tough one to. I guess if you're trying to make him have an impact, sure. But did I think it was pretty quick? Yeah, I did. But it is what it is at that point.
I guess it's a return on investment thing. If you're going to bring a guy in and pay him $1 zillion, milk it. It's like, let's get something out of this guy. I think Ospreay's your best choice, though. I mean, we both saw Ospreay live. He impressed the hell out of us in the ring. As a wrestler, I think I don't like the whole finisher type stuff, but he's a great wrestler.
I think he's the guy. I think he's the transition guy.
His promos are killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, his accent kind of even spices it up. I think his promos are awesome. I wish
you can feel it.
But I just wish he's not going to get a build, though. I just worry he's just going to go over there and be one of those guys that I'm one of those guys.
Well, time will tell. We got to see. They're restructuring a little bit. They're putting some powers to some people in some places that maybe can help them. Because look, it's all about decision making. And speaking of decision making, I know the next question leads us to one that we're kind of like iffy on.
This is a question that might cause more obscenities than anything we've ever been asked before. This is Walt from Rock Hill. Walt asked, "What are your thoughts on Tony Khan running Ring of Honor Supercard pay-per-view head-to-head versus SmackDown and the Hall of Fame on WrestleMania weekend?"
Okay, so backstory. It's always been like WrestleMania weekend pretty much. Like, yeah, that's kind of their thing. When Mania was when it's one night, you could run on Saturday versus the Sunday, so it made sense. Now that it's 2 nights, it's causing an issue because you can't even push it to Friday because then you're head-to-head with a free show on, network television, SmackDown, and Hall of Fame. I'm sure that'll be Peacock, I guess. I'm assuming it'll flip over into the Hall of Fame on Peacock. But, so, yeah, you got to choose. Do you want to do free or do you want to pay for Honor Club and get Ring of Honor Supercard? Well, here's the thing. If you're somebody who has Honor Club already, you're probably going to watch it anyway. Does that make sense? You're already in the base that's going to watch it anyway.
Yeah, you've already paid for it, and you're that kind of fan. I mean, I'm not disparaging that, but you're a Ring of Honor fan, so you're going to watch it.
Right. Because here, look, you could always come back and watch Hall of Fame if it's on Peacock. So it's not like you have to watch it live. It's not something that you're going to be like, oh, man, I can't believe I didn't see that live. SmackDown probably could be said for the same. They're probably going to put – here's my prediction. A week out, I don't even know. We don't know anything about the SmackDown prior to the day before Mania. I guess you're going to get a match or two that they couldn't fit on the card that they're going to put on SmackDown. So it's almost like it's WrestleMania SmackDown. And then they'll do a lot of promo and hyping the matches and video packages for the matches to hype Mania. So you want my argument? If you were a Ring of Honor fan, just watch the Ring of Honor Supercard. Because you can go back and you could DVR SmackDown and you could watch Peacock. You could watch the Hall of Fame whenever you wanted to.
If you got Honor Club, just watch it Saturday morning. If you just like general wrestling, how about if you just decide to, why didn't they book the damn thing on Saturday at like noon? Why? I mean, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with booking a show when they have a card at noon or something like that? It's not going to hurt you. That audience you've got will watch it.
The argument is this. Well, you're not going to get any casuals because you're going head-to-head with a free SmackDown in the Hall of Fame. Well, Myron, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Ring of Honor's not drawing casuals anyway. So I don't know that it's a lose-lose. I just don't think you're not going to gain anything, but you may not lose much. I think the guy that's going to watch Supercard, he's going to watch Supercard regardless. But you ain't picking up anybody waffling. They're not waffling in your direction.
Yes. If you're trying to draw casuals, in the words of my great high school friend Shane Allen, this is about fucking stupid. Yeah. But for your fan base, they'll still love it.
I mean, look, we're a week and a half out. Eddie Kingston versus Mark Briscoe for the Ring of Honor title. Athena versus Shida for the women's title. Billy Starks versus Queen Aminata for the women's. Yes, they're giving a women's TV title for Ring of Honor. You're not on fucking TV, but you're going to have a TV title. Bear with me. I'm just saying. There's Nick's hot take for the week, right? Like, how the fuck do you have a women's TV title? You have a Ring of Honor TV title, by the way, and it's defended on AEW. So, because your Ring of Honor's not on TV. How about we just do away with those TV belts until you get? I'm assuming he's going to try to pick up a TV deal of some kind, so be it. But you can't have a TV title if you're not on TV. That's just my take. So anyway, yeah. Sorry, I don't know that I can follow that up with any other thing.
We're trying, people. Yeah. We love all wrestling, but it's just hard sometimes.
Dude, that's not hating on wrestling. That's just hating on that makes no fucking sense.
Yes.
Yeah. But you know what does make sense, Myron?
What's that?
Head on over to our YouTube, youtube.com/C/Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Or hell, just search for @TappedOutPod as our tag there. That's our handle on YouTube as I throw up some air quotes. And you can see, look, we're making it simple for you right there on the screen. Click on the little like button, click on the subscribe button, and click on the notifications button. So every time we drop something, because Myron, I got a good tease for you. I'm going to tell you what it is when I come back. But before that, I'm going to remind you, look, if you're a podcast listener, between Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, iHeartRadio, we're on all the above. Make sure you're subscribing there. And, every time an episode drops, you'll get it for you. Because I was going to say, over on the YouTube channel, this weekend, I got a match sent to me. And we're going to talk about it a little bit on the other show this week, on the indie show, that I'm going to drop that's pretty interesting. And I want to thank that guy for sending it. CB Suave sent me a match, and I've actually already got the episode downloaded, getting ready to upload it for this weekend as well. So that's going to drop over the weekend on our YouTube channel. Behind the paywall, it'll be there first. But then it'll release out to the public, obviously, the next day. So that's why you want to be a member as well. I did have a pleasure. I do want to plug another quick thing. I did go to, look, we're not going to talk about the show itself. That'll be on the indie show. But at the Disruptor show, the sponsor came and sat at the table with us. Jay Martin and Company, Jamie Martin and his son came and enjoyed the Disruptor show with me. So make sure, look, jmartinandcompany.com. Pressure washer, window cleaning, driveway, all your cleaning needs, whether it's residential or business, check them out right there. And again, they're on Facebook as well, but jmartinandcompany.com is how you pick them up as well, man. And we appreciate all their support as well over the years. So,
did you get some of his Cruel Spice? Did he bring you some Cruel Spice? He's a Cruel Spice hoarder. He's a lovely gentleman and a phenomenal pressure washer, but he takes all the Cruel Spice when Cruel has it for sale.
I know.
Well, I was lucky enough. I went to another show full of surprises at the Royston Dome, which we're going to see in the future. It was the Mason Alexander tribute show for the Mason Wrestling Federation, and it was full of surprises. I got to see my friend Alex Keitel, which was an absolute gem getting to see him wrestling again. I sat next to Brett Wolverton, who I pestered the living shit out of, but he is such just an absolute reference of wrestling all throughout the Southeast. It was so good to get to see him again. And I got the great surprise of finding out Anarchy Wrestling is going to be running in the Royston Dome. I'll be talking to Jonathan Feltner tomorrow to be able to prepare a show for y'all. It was a wonderful thing getting invited to that show. So much to be learned. And that Alexander Lev Chip Day match from Anarchy Wrestling is circulating on YouTube and Facebook. If you have a chance to watch that, please do.
Yeah, it was a great match. But look, we had a great weekend, got a bunch of stuff coming up. So make sure you're checking us out on YouTube, on the podcast, whatever platform you listen and or you watch on. We greatly appreciate it. And keep sending those questions in, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Make sure, by the way, some of them I don't use if it's duplicate, like if you don't include the city. Make sure we like to say where you're from, so we can get an idea. So make sure you include your city and all that.
Geographically inclined.
Yeah, exactly. We greatly appreciate that, man. It's a big help for us. So you got anything else before we get out of here, brother?
Oh, and sorry, we went to the Nightmare Factory show. We forgot about that. That was a lovely thing. Thank y'all for having us.
Yep. That we did. Anything else, man?
Nope, that's it.
That's the old saying, brother. If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.